My name is Lauren, and you are watching my live stream, Lauren Learns Things, a show in which every week I invite my colleagues and friends to join me to teach me things so that I can learn live with you all here on Twitch. Today, my guest, yes, I'm pointing the correct way, is Chris. Hello, Chris. Chris is, my colleague, is a PHP developer at Vonage with me, and we are super excited because today we are diving into all things open source. And I'm super excited because Chris is a top tier expert in this world, and thus I get to ask all the questions, and I invite you to as well to ask him from where to get started to how to begin or why it's important or what makes a good PR in the first place. But that's what today's topic is going to be about. I'm super looking forward to it. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, you've joined me here before, so you know the drill. We'll kind of go through something that you have for us, but also I think we can kind of shake it up today and have a conversation just about open source in general. This is a timely topic, I suppose, if you will, because today's September 1st, and that means that next month is October, why is October significant in the world of coding? I guess I could ask.
Yeah, a couple years ago, I'm actually not even sure how long they've been doing it now, DigitalOcean has started sponsoring this huge month-long hackathon across all of basically any public GitHub repository can be a part of this, and anybody in the world can participate. So if you ever wanted to get into open source contributions, October is a great time to do it.
That's super cool. So it's called Hacktoberfest, and it's something that, I think it has built clout over the years too. They have cool swag. It's super fun and collaborative, and I think it's just a cool way to remember folks about open source in the first place and to get people excited about it and help them kind of make their first steps into it if they haven't ever before. It kind of incentivizes it, I guess. So I'm stoked to be talking about it with you today. And they give amazing t-shirts. Yes, exactly. Aloha, welcome, Laura. Hello, hello, Sponge, if that's how I pronounce your name. We're super excited to have you here. And thanks for joining. I hope you brought your open source questions ready to throw at Chris. I may try to help answer them also, but he's our expert, and I just get to be the one that learns things. That's the joy of my role, really. Okay, so I guess let's just dive in.
Okay.
Does that seem right? Yeah. Okay.
I think that's the best way to do this. Yeah.
Let's see. Tell me. Let's just start off with in the world of open source. Well, wait. Should we clarify some definitions? What is open source in the first place before we go any further?
I think so, because open source is a very loose term nowadays.
Okay.
Open source. The idea of actual traditional open source is code that anyone is allowed to share and modify. There's a lot of different schemes out there where you can get access to source code, but that doesn't mean you have the freedom to actually do with it what you want. And that's an important distinction with open source software.
So maybe think of it in the world of copyright, in that the stuff that is open source is open copyright, and it is fair game to play with and build with. And
actually not even that.
No.
Copyright is actually the reason we have this whole big complication. Way back when people started developing for computers, and I'm talking about 50s, early 60s, there was no real idea of copyright for software.
Okay. Sure.
You wrote software, and generally everybody just shared it. Literally in late 1950s at MIT, when they were starting to develop software without having to need to go through someone at IBM or have gated off computers.
Right.
They would write all the software, stick it in a drawer, And if you needed that, you needed code someone else had written, you would just take it out of the drawer, splice it into your literal spool of ticker tape, and then go from there.
Okay.
You were free to modify it. Like nobody would ever come back to you and say like, "Hey, I wrote that. I want."
Hey, that's mine.
I want recognition for that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you ended up with a situation where just here's a drawer full of software. Take what you need. If you can make it better, make it better, and then everybody else will benefit from that.
Cool.
Because you don't
really encourage that learning together collaboratively.
Yes, because we all have limited times during the day, so we don't want to continually reinvent the wheel.
No.
So the best way to do that is to make software and share it out. By the time you get to the 80s, that's when you have had this rise of commercial software, and the idea that I actually own a piece of software.
Yeah,
Yes, intellectual property.
Right,
I came up with this. This is my idea. I need to get paid for it.
Got it.
So copyright starts getting into that.
Okay.
And then that's where you actually have to have these legal definitions of what is open source.
Okay.
Because as contracts and copyright get involved, you have to have essentially what are contracts for like open source licensing to tell you have the freedom to do these things.
Okay.
Because of copyright, because copyright works differently all across the world.
Okay, interesting. Cool clarification. That is really helpful to make sense. For those of you that are joining us in the chat, I hope that is helpful for establishing that definition for you all also.
Yeah, Aaron Bissett says free as in speech or free as in beer. Yes, those are two entirely different things.
Sure. But yes, so let's see. So you, Chris, you maintain a few different projects. Can you tell me about those?
Sure. My day-to-day is maintaining the PHP SDK library as part of Vonage. But I actually also maintain probably the most popular package I have is it's just a small little package part of Laravel that actually just checks whether or not a cron expression is valid and whether or not it should run. So both of those are quite heavily used. I've been parts of other open source projects, like I've done some work on the PHP language itself with some of their build scripts, little tiny bug fixes, just a lot of various little fixes out there in the world for a bunch of projects. But the Vonage libraries and that cron expression are my two probably most popular.
When you say popular, that means there's lots of contributions or lots of pull requests heavily used. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So your job as a maintainer, what does that mean to be someone that, you maintain, as I just had that pulled up, at Vonage, our PHP SDK. What does it mean to be a maintainer for this?
So a maintainer of any kind of open source software is kind of the guardian of that software. I think that's probably the best way to think about it. Like a parent with a child, like it's something that you take care of, you make sure stays up to date. A lot of it is kind of that busy work of updating dependencies, doing that kind of stuff. But especially with open source software, it's also interacting with the community,
right?
Reading through bug reports, figuring out what you can do to fix those things, looking at pull requests. Being that facilitator to make the software better and keep it relevant as time goes on.
So to extend your metaphor a bit, if you're the parent of it, you're also inviting other like coaches or teachers or people to be in that child's life to also influence and impact it. So the cool thing I've always thought about in the world of open source is that you acknowledge that you are only one human, or all the maintainers are one group of folks, and that the more brain power, the better. And inviting other people to the party allows it to go into cool new places, but you're still kind of steering the ship.
Yeah, like most software solves a problem, but it may not solve it specifically how you want. And that's a big part of open source.
Right.
This solves 80% of my problem. How can I fix that other 20% of my problem I also need fixed? And being able to contribute that back in a meaningful way.
Yeah, really neat. Okay, so normally I think it makes sense then for someone who's curious to get started in the world of open source is to be a user of something, and then they know it well, and then they kind of have ideas of how, or opinions of how things could maybe be better or optimized. Is that true? Or is that like, what's the best entry point, I guess, if you will, for someone who's curious about it? Usually
the entry point is an itch that you need to scratch. So you're using a piece of software, you don't like how something works, you want to make it work better. You're reading a piece of documentation and you want to make it clearer. Because contributing to open source is not just physically writing code. There's a whole sphere of things around every single project. But usually it comes into something is not working exactly like how I want it, or I've come across a bug that impacts me a lot more than other people. I want to help solve this because either it hasn't been solved because no one's come across it before, or the maintainer just doesn't have the bandwidth to solve every single little tiny bug that's out there.
Sure. So there's an incentive, I suppose, if you have some code yourself that you're excited about, to make it open source so that other people can contribute. And if it's a project you're excited about, but don't have the bandwidth, maybe it's a side hustle, you have your regular day job. If you put it open to the universe, then people can help participate in it. That's really cool. So we have a lot of folks watching us right now, and I'll just ask this question to get us started, is what sort of things have you all contributed to in the world of open source so far in your coding journey? And what are things that you like to look for when coming up with a pull request or submitting an open source contribution? What have you done so far? And then also, so Chris, I want to ask you, what do you want people to know about just open source contributions in general?
I think the biggest thing with open source contributions are that you are probably also helping solve someone else's problem. If you have the ability to fix it, you can help fix it for someone else who doesn't have that ability. Because just because you use a piece of software doesn't mean you have the ability to actually fix it. Now, I'm a developer, you're a developer. We can get our hands dirty by taking a piece of open source software and fixing it ourselves.
Right.
But not everybody has that ability. So if we can help other people, that's probably the biggest thing you'll get out of this, is you're solving your problem, but you're also solving other people's problems who can't.
Yeah, so it's kind of like being a part of a larger ecosystem and contributing, if you will. So there are really cool projects too that you can purposely choose that are maybe more mission driven. So if you're wanting to even spend time, if you will, thinking about it as a volunteer work, you could get involved in also, right? There are projects that have these objectives that are tailored to that goal, and it can feel like you're participating in something really larger than you, that feels good also. So yeah, it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, if you find communities, a lot of times, for example, I was I guess technically still am part of the PHP mentoring project.
Cool.
Our website is fully open source, so if someone wants to go help work on it, there's a repository out there. There's issues out there that you can look at, submit a fix for, or even take and use yourself. Another really big project is the OpenCFP platform that a lot of PHP conferences use. Fully open source. If you need to add different topics or different audiences that you want to look for, you can go in, take the software, modify it. If there's bugs fixed, you give them back so everybody else benefits, but you can take that code, use it, and start to play with it and do what you want with it.
Right. And I think that's an interesting point too. It's it kind of eventually feels kind of like a bummer to only be consuming, to not be participating back. It's easy to just take as a developer, use all of these different libraries, whatever, and feel then kind of lonely because you're then not giving back. And so I think this October emphasis in the world of Hacktoberfest is a nice reminder of hey, give as much as you take, and participate in that in a really cognitive, thoughtful way. So that's a nice reminder. From the chat, Aaron says that he is on the DSF board, the Django Software Foundation board, and that's a big contribution. But again, that one doesn't involve writing code, but that's an open source project. Yeah, so there's lots of ways to be a part of it and to feel participatory. So that is really cool and an important thing to think about when getting started. But let's go back actually to that point of how do I, Have you participated in Hacktoberfest before?
I have. The last couple of years, it's mostly been as a maintainer.
Okay.
So I deal with looking at the issues and going through the PRs. But I have participated in the past for actually doing some of those fixes and trying to get that T-shirt. I've been unsuccessful, but I've been trying to get that T-shirt before.
Yeah. So, okay. So tell me then, if I'm watching this and I want to participate in Hacktoberfest, how do I do that? Like, what is that? What are my first steps then?
So the first steps to actually participating in like Hacktoberfest are to actually go to like GitHub, find a project that you want to work on, and then deciding what you want to fix. Usually the lowest hanging fruit is documentation.
Yes.
Projects love people who help maintain the documentation. Especially with like, that's usually the entryway for people getting into the PHP internal language.
Okay.
Work on the documentation. And then that helps build up your credibility and your ability to understand the project itself by helping maintain that stuff that most people don't want to maintain.
Right.
I will be one to fully admit I hate doing documentation, but it's necessary.
It's necessary. Yeah. No, so if someone else is helping with it, awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's usually the easiest thing. You can go into GitHub directly, find a file you want to edit, like a README file or a documentation file. Click the little edit button, and GitHub will handle a lot of the back and forth for you on being able to actually submit that pull request.
Okay, that's really cool. And so I'm just popping over to the Hacktoberfest website, and it looks like there's lots of information for it being a maintainer and organizer, and then all the different kind of companies that are participating are listed as well, but you can pop in your email address to get more information. So let me just make sure that I include this in the chat so y'all have that also. Also look for issues tagged good first, yes, or similar. There's a Twitter bot which lists some of them. Cool.
Yeah. And that'll be something we don't have set up on our repositories yet for Vonage, because we're in the middle of shuffling some things around. Right. But a lot of repositories that are directly participating in Hacktoberfest will either have a Hacktoberfest label on good issues, or they may be labeled beginner, or like Aaron says, good first.
Yeah.
Some different ways for that. And Tessa Tickles in the chat has a really good mention of contributing to open source doesn't have to be code. There's lots of things you can do around that without ever having to write a single line of code.
Yeah. And I think it's a good entryway then, just to watch, I think to see the full pipeline, which is maybe something we can do together to see what that process looks like, can be just a edit in the README. And then at least you're kind of getting your feet wet. I can't remember that idiom today. Toes wet?
Yeah, getting your feet wet.
Getting your feet wet? Okay.
Yeah.
When getting your feet wet into what this process even looks like to get a PR accepted kind of thing or approved. And I think that's an interesting thing to kind of make sense of, just even if it isn't code on your first go at it. It also, I'm all about how to help folks get their foot in the door into the coding industry or get their first kind of role. Contributing to an open source repo at a company that you're really excited about can be a great way for teams to start recognizing your name. So when your name pops up in a resume pile, they might already know you, not just from Twitter, but from, oh my gosh, this person's been submitting pull requests. We know that they're a user of ours, and we know that they're excited about it. So I think that is a really kind of insider hack on getting yourself into a team that you're excited about or that you use and love.
Yeah, and I know for me, as someone who looks at hiring it a lot, I will never disqualify someone for not doing open source software development.
No.
But being able to show I can work with other people, here's the code that I can put out in real world situations.
Yep.
That for me holds a lot of weight, more than can you do a quick little coding test. Being able to demonstrate I'm articulate in issues, I can develop good code with tests, for something that solves an actual real world problem goes a really, really long way.
Yeah, it's demonstrating who you are in a real scenario versus a coding simulation that sometimes companies will have you do for the job interview part of it.
Yeah, there comes a point where every to-do list you do looks exactly the same, no matter what,
right?
what job interview.
How do you differentiate that? It's so true. Down with the whiteboard interview. Okay, so Aaron says also easy pickings is pretty common colloquialism for marking ones to start with, and then he provided a link for that. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, definitely if you're just like starting out, look for those in repos that you're excited about, because that a maintainer has gone through and marked that as like, hey, I imagine if I were in your shoes, this is a good place to get started. So yeah, I think that's it. I had another question I wanted to ask you, but maybe that's it, is what's your top tips about getting started in contributions?
If you're going to get started, find a community that you're comfortable with. The ones that are participating in Hacktoberfest and they're going through and they're labeling issues, things like that, they are actively trying to court you to come work on their project. They want new blood in the project, and those should be very, very inviting projects to work with. So that's probably my biggest thing, is find somewhere that you're comfortable with, or that you like the community. So like for me personally, I'm probably going to go find a PHP project. Just because that's my wheelhouse. Like I've worked in it for almost 20 years now, so I'm going to go find those. But find a community that you're wanting to work with, and find a project that you have a passion about. Don't just pick a random project. If you're picking a project where it's just like, well, I need to get my four pull requests to get my t-shirt, you're probably not going to make meaningful PRs, and you're probably not going to care whether or not they get selected. Ultimately, Hacktoberfest is about getting into those open source communities, finding your place in those, and being able to help contribute back.
Definitely. And often, I'm going to link in our chat right now, our Slack, our community Slack, using the command Slack that we have in Twitch, because often folks that are participating in Hacktoberfest also have a space where you can participate and ask questions.
Yes.
You don't have to do this in isolation. You can do it as a community collaboratively. So definitely encourage that piece to participate in, so that you can kind of ask questions if you are facing struggle or like confusion just in where to begin on that. So that for me is my tip.
Yeah, and a good repository will also have like a contributing document that tells you how to contribute, but then also will post you to those places where you can just get general help, be it a Slack channel or an IRC channel. I think some people probably still use, what is it, Gitter or Glitter, whatever the GitHub chat thingy was. But they should be signposting you to places to get help. If they're not pointing you in any direction, you're probably not going to get your PR submitted or approved, probably.
That's a red flag, I suppose.
But a contributing document's a really good thing to look for, because then they're actually telling people, this is how you help. This is how you help work with us.
It's a getting started page, essentially. Sure, a cheat sheet. And I know that we are working on publishing a blog post right now, like kind of with that information, but we'll probably have that also. So we'll double up on that from the Vonage side of things to make sure that it's like a safe and collaborative, comfortable space to get going.
Yeah,
all of positive. Like that's the whole thing.
And like all of our repositories, we actually do a lot of our work in the open, like out in the open as proper open source software. So we have contributing documentation, we have codes of conduct, we have those things that help try to make people feel as comfortable as they can.
It's so true. And it was really something I was hungry for when I was looking for my next role at my last company. I was wanting to find a company that was like very in the open, doing things publicly and wanting to be held accountable for the code that they were putting out, and also knowing that they were contributing to something cool in the world of code as well. And it felt really important to me. And so it was an interviewing question that I used to interview right back to kind of understand what the company's stance was. And Vonage really stood out for me in that regard. Like, we want to be publicly facing in the sense that people can see exactly what our SDKs do and really have clarity on all of that, and also contribute and participate in it, because it feels really, really important.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that just kind of throw code over the wall and say like, it's open source. We're never going to look at it, but it's open source. So you can look at it. I was at places that were completely, proprietary and secretive, and it just never felt like
interesting, actually, in a way to think about it. Aaron says, I know it's common in Python, people, or hopefully in other language communities, but a lot of conferences will also hold sprints after the conference where you can contribute in person. Ooh, with some of the core teams. Very cool. Great. Thank you for finding that out.
I know Drupal does this quite a bit. There's usually a Drupal sprint either during or after the conference. I know there was a couple years where we were doing test fests for PHP as like the evening thing. So like you got set up on how to actually run like the unit tests in the suite.
A test fest. Okay, cute. I love that. Okay.
Yeah. So the PHP language has a pretty decent test suite, but it's by no means 100%. So we would actually show people how to get everything all set up, write code, run the test, and if there wasn't a test, actually figure out how to submit a patch back to actually get it working.
I love that. So Tessa also is agreeing, doing it, and then remote sprints where if you can contribute in order to pizza, you can expense the pizza code and bugs. Very cute. I love it. It's the community thing that
it is. Yeah.
It's what's most exciting on my end. What do you hope people will get out of participating in open source contributions? Like, what's the incentive? Why do I, other than a cool t-shirt, which is like super fair if that's your motivation, but other than that.
DigitalOcean does have some very nice t-shirts. I will fully admit. I don't know they're as good as the Vonage ones, but
they're really look at you repping that. I'm wearing my "This is what a programmer looks like" shirt, but you're wearing a cool Nexmo one or Vonage one. That I love that one.
Yeah. Side tangent. My oldest son had to dress for what he wanted to be when he grew up to go to school. So he decided he wanted to be a programmer like his dad. So he went to school in pajama pants and a hoodie and a t-shirt.
Hilarious.
I was like, that's slightly skewed, but it's also not that far from there. But I
like, what?
Yeah. Getting something out of contributing to open source, I think the big thing is, like I said, from the job perspective, it shows that you know what you're doing. It's just extra validation. It's like a portfolio. But also it gives you the confidence to be able to make these changes. For people that are a little bit shy face to face, sometimes working online can help broaden those horizons. But a big part of it is getting that confidence to, be able to work on these things and help affect some change. Even if it's a small program that there's not that many users, you're helping other people. And I think that's the biggest thing to get out of it.
I love that part of it. Yeah. I mean, of course, selfishly build that portfolio, get it, like build up that reason for a job to say yes to you. I love that piece of it. This other one of like, I am in this with my community and I'm contributing for the better to help other people. And the network and to build your network. That's such an important piece also. This like idea of, now I have these folks who know me and are also, when say I post to Twitter that I'm looking for a new role, they're like, it's my girl. She was helping on that. Like, let me help her out. I think that's just like a piece that will forever, and that means you can help them too. Like that becomes your friend of network that you can say, I have this cool role at my company. I need you to come. And that's a neat thing to think about.
I will definitely say I would not be where I was today if it was not for meeting people in open source and building those networks. Like it does help quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. It is just like fun to see how we all are connected in those different ways also. Okay, so you as a maintainer, and I promise we will get to the part of looking at this and going through the steps together. He's such a wealth of knowledge, like we have to tap it.
Oddly enough, reviewing PRs is probably the most boring part of it.
Yes, okay, so perfect. So we're on point then.
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to put your maintainer hat on, and I want you to think about, hypothetically, what will cause you to close a PR rather than accepting it if I put one in? So if I submit one,
a good PR affects a meaningful change. DigitalOcean has done a really good job on being able to curtail a lot of the bad PRs. But across all of my projects, I will invariably get a PR that just adds 2 new lines to a file. Or I actually had one that introduced a typo so that they could then submit a second PR to fix the typo.
That's sneaky.
It not really, because it was literally a typo introduced a single typo,
and
then fixed it.
It
wasn't a typo in like another block of changes.
Right.
Nope, I misspelled this word. I think they converted it to the British spelling and then converted it back. Cool. Didn't really work. But a good PR will affect some sort of useful change.
Sure.
Junk PRs that are just reorganizing lists or adding white space, things like that. I've gotten ones where it's a list of things like in an array, and they will just align them. So it does look nicer.
Sure.
But I'm probably not going to commit it because ultimately it doesn't affect anything.
Okay.
So for me, I am looking for things that I know will actually help people. Like I said, it doesn't have to be code. Documentation's a big one. Grammar checking is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Doing things like that, making the code better, those are good. It doesn't have to be a whole full-blown like new feature or big major bug fix. Refactoring code works well too if you can explain how this does help. But I want to see changes that are meaningful to people.
So you have this rubric essentially in your mind of like a way to evaluate whether or not it's useful.
Yeah,
it sounds like that's cool. That's good information to know. So come in with a hat on, with like a lens of how can I positively impact this code base.
Yeah,
it sounds like okay. That's great advice. So for those that are watching us now or watching this after the fact, hello to us in the future. Do you have any suggestions for current, issues that in repositories that you maintain that might be a good place for us to participate or get started?
Like I said, right now we are actually moving a bunch of repositories around, so we haven't had a chance to like point out some specific issues. The Dexmo SDKs or the Vonage SDKs tend to be fairly stable because we react to API changes for the most part. So I don't think there's a ton of lingering bugs out there. There is one. I will now say I purposely left for now, as opposed to didn't catch until earlier today.
So normally they're caught, but I asked to just hold on to one for me. Okay.
Yeah, so
if I'm like in the future and I'm about to start participating for Hacktoberfest, I would come to the particular SDK page within GitHub and look for like what would I would kind of make sure that I'm using it, I guess so that I can inspect the docs well and kind of like understand it. Is that
you want to have an idea of what you want to fix, either by going through the issues and finding those ones that are kind of signposted, or already having something. I don't think there's any in there that are going to be into signpost, because actually most of those issues are going to be fixed here soon with the next release. So
very cool.
Did do a bunch of those. There is one that, and I'm going to pull it up here just so I can see it better on my screen.
Yes, it's quite small for you, huh? So I'm looking at the issues.
Yeah, so if you're on the issues themselves, there's really not a whole lot there to fix. A good half of these are going to be closed with the next release. Everything else is just kind of transitory. If you go back to the code page, though, the code tab, and you scroll down to the README, you'll notice that we have two badges that say unknown.
We have two badges that say unknown. So
if you go to the very top of the README, we've got our little like status badges there under the client library. Two of them are broken due to some changes we made after I had actually fixed the README. So I can show you how we can actually get those fixed. This is something that realistically you should know what the build looks like and the code coverage looks like. So the first thing you will have to do, and this is because you're a part of Vonage, so it's a little bit different. You're going to want to go up and in the upper right-hand corner, click the fork button. What forking does is it creates a copy of the repository into your own personal library. So like this, so just go ahead and put it into Lauren Lee. And at this point, you can make whatever changes you want to this. This is your own complete copy of the code, and that's basically kind of it. So depending on how big the change you want to make is, you could completely clone this down to your desktop,
But I might
pull
want
up
to just
Visual Studio.
part.
In this case, we're actually going to fix some typos, so we don't need to. And this is where like working on documentation gets really, really nice. You can do it all directly in the GitHub editor. So if you go to the list right there and go to readme.md and open it up, I think it's the fourth one from the bottom. Yep. Every file in GitHub will have a little edit icon. Yep, that little pencil icon. Yep. You click that, you get the raw code of that file. If you are not a part of the Vonage group, it will automatically do the forking and create a pull request for you. You've got a couple extra steps because if you just clicked edit, you would just edit it directly, which is not what we want to show. But we want to fix those batches. So under, I think it should be line 4 there. Yeah. We have a batch. So
we had, where was it was build and code coverage. Okay, yep. So we want.
So we've got build status there. That link actually needs to completely change.
Okay.
Let me get you what that new link is.
Oh, yeah, see? So Aaron says be sure to check for a contributing markdown file or similar in the repo. Not all projects will use GitHub issues and might have their own bug tracker elsewhere. Yeah, that's a great point. That's kind of back to what we were saying of like, we need to, everyone kind of has a getting started cheat sheet somewhere of like how to find those things and should guide you through that.
Yeah, I'm going to send you a link that we're going to replace that with here.
Cool.
In just a second.
That sounds great. That sounds great. This was the first time I don't normally, when I live stream, I usually use OBS, and I'm using something different today called StreamYard, and I got to listen to the beginning sound, my theme song that someone on our team created for this live stream, and I have it stuck in my head. Whoa,
oh, that is not quite right. Workflow name.
And I don't have music flowing today as I normally do because I'm using StreamYard, but that's okay. I think we'll all do just fine.
Okay, here we
go. So if you were in the chat, tell me, are you going to be participating in Hacktoberfest? Are you excited for it?
There's my badge. There we go. I'm gonna send this. I'm gonna send this to you in Slack because that's probably the easiest way to get it to you.
Cool. Do you want to actually do it in our private chat that we have on StreamYard?
I can do that as well.
That'd be awesome because I usually try to close everything out before the stream so that I can keep my CPU low. Yep. Today's been feeling pretty smooth. Knock on wood. I don't mean to
But that's because you have Slack closed now. So.
Exactly.
So that URL should give us a build passing.
All right.
So we want to go ahead and just edit that. I believe it's the whole travisci.org. Yep. So just select that. Yep. And I think just paste that in.
All of this? Or
no, the first parenthesis.
The first one.
Yep. And then that second
and then
link,
what is the second link supposed to be?
That one will be this link right here.
You send to me. You are sending me a link. And does this need to be larger for y'all in the chat? No one said anything. Not this time around, Tessa. That's okay. Okay. So that looks good. And then Aaron, it's too easy as an advocate. Everything we tend to code is an open.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 2 no's on Hacktoberfest. Great. Shoot. Well, this stream might not be very relevant for everyone.
Yeah, between Tessa and Aaron, they're probably not getting a whole lot of this.
I mean, sure, but I appreciate you both for being here because, well, Chris and I both are in Tessa's MDE program, the Cloudinary program, right? Is that right, Chris?
Well, I've also known Tessa for a long time.
And you know Tessa super well also, but do you know that Tessa is going to be joining Lauren Learns Things in September. I'm super excited. I know, you're hearing it here first. We're doing a Cloudinary Vonage collab, and it's
cool.
Sick. I'm super excited. Okay, sorry. Back to what we're building. So I'm going to preview and see if that works.
Okay, so we've got 2.
Yeah,
so let's see why we have 2.
Build status. So it's both of these things.
Why is that doubled up?
Right?
It's hard to see on.
Here, let me make it larger.
Side. Yeah. It also doesn't help that everything's shrunk down to for me. Because I've got to see the little tiny part.
Really small.
Put a extra. There's an extra square bracket.
Am I missing? So here's the square bracket that closes here. Closes that, and then this.
I think that looks okay because the build status.
Oh, look! There's a little green. There's a little red.
Okay.
We're fine. Okay. It's showing the differences.
You can see how much I use the direct editor.
No, I never do. This is really fun for me to play with though, because I never use the GitHub editor. Okay, wait. So let's see. You'll still take part, Aaron says, because he wants the shirt. And we are developing an open source project, so I may want to sponsor Hacktoberfest one of these days. Yes, that is so exciting. Cool. Well, that is fun that Cloud Mary is doing that. I love that. Okay.
Let's see. Now we need to fix code cov. The code cov one is a little bit easier to fix because we didn't completely swap that out.
Okay.
So that first URL, we want to change Vonage PHP core to. Make sure I've got this. It should just be Vonage-PHP-SDK-core.
Vonage-PHP-SDK-core. Is that what I heard?
Yep. Okay. And then that second URL also needs that same change. So we'll just add SDK into there.
Here we go.
And I think that should be it.
Let's see if it changed. 80%.
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay. Awesome. We did it. But that's only the first step. What do we do? So
that's only the first step. We made the change. Now we need to figure out how to get it to us. So if you scroll all the way back down.
We don't know.
We are going to make a new branch and a pull request. So the way everything kind of.
Sorry. Okay.
Yep. So the way Git works, if you're not super familiar with it, is generally there's always kind of a mainline release of a piece of software, and you do all of your changes in what are called branches, which are just kind of like little side fixes for things.
Right.
So if you think of it like a tree.
To master.
Yeah. So if you think of it like a tree, your master branch or your main branch, whatever it's called, is your trunk. That's where everything comes off of. Little changes come off the side as little branches. And depending on how complicated they can get worse than that, but generally they come right off the trunk. So we're going to create a new branch.
Okay.
And I always like it if you can name it much more clearer than the default of patch.
Yeah, I hate that one. Boring.
So you could just name it fix badges, and that tells me exactly what you did.
Cool. And then should I say that in the description as well?
So the big one is going to be the title. Make sure the title's filled out. So you can say fixed build and code cov badges.
Code cov badges.
And then the extended description is if you need more than that. Your title should probably be less than 50 characters.
Okay.
That's more of a Git convention than anything, just so it logs it correctly. But yeah, watch our live stream. But the longer one will be if you're doing a bunch of changes or you need to go into more detail. If you can have that typed into the more extended.
You got to be your biggest promoter. I think.
Yes.
And then make sure that I have the correct email, which is my work one. And then I'm not committing it to master. I have a new branch, fixing the badges.
Then you can click propose changes.
We're ready. We're ready to.
So that will commit it to a brand new branch and automatically open the pull request. If you're doing a lot of work in your code editor, you'd push the branch up and then do a formal PR. But this is taking care of it from a real quick way of doing it.
Yes.
Now
so
for
pull it to that branch to GitHub, and then you would come to GitHub, you would navigate to the browser, open a new PR, and this would be there. So just if you're doing it that way, you're caught up to speed. Okay, cool. So what?
So in our case, we actually have a little GitHub template to tell you, like, this is the information we're looking for in a PR. Okay. Because while I love reading code, sometimes it can be hard for me to understand what you were doing. This is pretty easy. Yeah. But especially if it's a more complicated change, being able to explain what you're doing. So under the description, usually what I do is I'll just copy and paste whatever main description, I'll put it under that heading. Nope. So that part where it says watch our live stream, the very, very first line.
This one?
Yep. Just move that down under the pound description.
Here?
Yep.
Okay.
And then motivation and context. I'd like to know why you made the change, if it's something other than a bug fix. So yep, we were live streaming, and Chris left this bug in there.
And get it approved.
Yep.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Okay, and then how has it been tested?
Yeah, so if this especially is, I want to know how you made sure this worked, because sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, I'll make a bug fix and push it up and be like, yeah, it's fine. So yeah, you looked at the example diff and it looked good.
Example diff. Screenshots. Ooh, I could have grabbed a screenshot of that. That would have been good. Nice.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yep. Now for us, especially with Hacktoberfest, so that because we get a lot of unsolicited PRs.
Sure.
Not that they're bad in any way, but just like there probably hasn't been a discussion around them. I like to know what kind of bug fix it or what kind of fix it is.
Sure.
So is it a bug fix, new feature, and whether or not it's a breaking change? Because we use what's called semantic versioning on all of our releases, so that way we don't break people or they have unintended upgrade paths they need to do. Okay. So in this case, it's just a bug fix. We're not breaking anything. And this checklist, I especially like this because as someone who's getting started, have I kind of crossed all my T's and dotted all of my I's?
Yeah.
So for this, there's really not a code style we have to worry about.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about that one.
Yep.
But what about the...
So there's not really a change for documentation, not a big deal. Really for this, the big things are I read the contributing document.
Which is what Aaron shouted out.
Which is what Aaron would have pointed to.
We actually did
we
that.
Didn't. I'll pretend you did.
Hey, where can I find the code of conduct in our stuff?
All of our repositories should have a code of conduct.md file directly in the root. And I believe they're all either contributor covenant 2.0 or 4.0, depending on how old the repository is. So go to code. And then there should be a big old code of conduct.md.
Oh, sorry. Here's our contributing doc.
Yep, there's our contributing. Yep.
And then code of conduct.
Yep. So I think this one is version 4. Some of our video stuff through OpenTalk is version 2. I think they're largely the same.
Cool. Well, it's really important, I think, like to abide, to read it, to be conscientious of it.
Yep.
Okay, neat. Thank you for that. And I haven't added tests in all new.
Don't need them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So in this case, the bottom one's important to check for me too, because you made sure you didn't break anything. This is a documentation. This is a small doc change. I'm not really worried about it. So go ahead and click create pull request, and then I will get a nice little email saying there's a new pull request.
Sweet. So you just got an email, hopefully, from me or from Github saying that I put a merged or a pull request for my branch. My branch was called Fix Badges. And let's see. So you then, should you drive? Do you want to show us what that looks like?
Let's see. Oh, actually, this is a little bit weird because of your fork. Click on edit.
Okay. Click on edit.
There you go. Change the base master to at least I think it's normally in here. Oh, you can't do it from here. Okay, that's easy enough. Go to the original branch. So where it says forked from at the top under the Lauren Lee / Vonage PCS. Go to there. Go to the link just below it. I'm pointing at my screen as if you can see what I'm pointing at.
No.
Let's see. Go to pull requests.
Yeah. So how come mine isn't there?
I'm wondering if.
Right.
Usually the pull request automatically gets set.
Should be there, but maybe because I forked it, and then
you forked it.
I'm trying to
usually GitHub says, "Do you want to PR this back to the original branch?"
Right, but maybe
It might be a little bit screwy because you're a part of the Vonage org. Go back to your fork real quick.
Okay.
If chat knows the quick answer to this, that works good too.
That would be awesome. So that's okay. And this isn't my. Oh, here it is.
That's the PR, but that's PRing it against yourself.
Against mine. So now maybe do I take?
Let's go the long way. Go back to the code.
Yeah.
Go back to the code tab.
Okay.
And right below code where it says master, click that little drop down button.
Yeah.
That little drop down. And go to there should be a Lauren Leaf. Or sorry, it's just fixed badges. Click on fixed badges there.
Fixed badges.
Yep.
And now we want to
change the base branch for the PR. That's what I thought. Go back to pull requests.
Okay.
And click on your pull request.
Click on my pull. This one?
Yep.
Okay.
And then if we go back to edit again, unless I'm missing something, change the base branch
to.
See, I don't see the original.
The Vonage PHP, that one? SDK?
Yeah, because usually there's the original repositories listed in here.
From fixed badges. Interesting. Change the base branch from that PR, says Steve. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what we were trying to do there. Yeah, because usually it should list the original master in here.
Interessant. And we think it might be because, well, we don't know why, but that.
Yeah.
Interesting. But normally what would happen is you would be here as a maintainer, see that as a pull request, take a look at it and merge it.
And then merge it in. Yep.
Right. That makes sense as a process, but just bizarre that, I mean, the long way to do it would be for me to, no, I still think you gotta fork it. Maybe just open a new PR and try to set the base branch to the original repo.
Yeah, try that. Go into your PR and just close it.
Okay, go into my PR, close it. I don't know.
Just scroll down to the comments.
Oh, yeah.
And just close pull request.
Okay.
And then go back. We're going to make a whole new one. So go back to the code tab.
Yep.
Nope. Go back to your repository. And click on code.
Okay.
And then click the drop down for master. And go to fix badges.
Okay.
And click on pull request where it says this commit is one commit ahead. Click pull request on the left or the right.
Yeah.
There we go. Base repository. Okay, so that should be
so this
correct. Base master. We must have just selected something wrong when we were doing it.
Interesting. Okay, so we were demoing a PR for the live stream. And we pulled this one into the description.
Yep.
And then we said it was a bug fix.
Yep.
And then we said that I've read the contributing docs. Okay. So
now go ahead and create
that pull request. This is good. I'm actually glad that I like when we have
that looks better.
This looks right. This looks good. Cool. So now we go to here and you didn't get an email, I bet, for that last one. That's interesting.
No,
so
I did not.
And then take a look. It's right there in the pull request.
There we go.
Awesome. And so I can watch on my end the journey that it's going through, and we'll be able to see like how you engage with it. So wait, sorry, Steve, you said actually merge into Lauren's master, then open the PR. That's okay. You can't change the base repository of it. Okay.
Yeah, I swore you could do that, but apparently you can't. So we've all learned something new today.
We all learned, and that was fun. Yeah, it worked correct. Thank you, Steve, for being on with us. I appreciate you greatly. You're the best.
So kind of at this point, I'm going to wait for our build to finish. It's going to run all of our unit tests. So like PHP 7.4 so far has passed, and so is 7.1. So once that's done, I will look at whatever change you made. Like I'll actually go through the code. I'll probably pull it down and run it.
Nice.
And then when it's all said and done.
Okay, look, everything. The different coverage is not okay.
Everything's green on my end, which is good.
That's what we look for. Those green checks, fabulous.
And then what I will do is generally I'll go through. I'll approve the PR. Thanks for fixing my typo.
No problem.
And then that just goes in as a comment, so you can see like I acknowledge your PR. Thank you. And then I'm going to merge that in for me.
Oh my gosh.
And that now your PR is merged and it's officially part of our code base.
So now if we go to code, we see there's only one pull request now, and then we see that here both of those
our badges work.
That is so incredible. Very cool. Well, high five to you for for helping me make sense of that. I hope that there is some excitement that we've built up around open source, contributing, being part of the community, collaborating, Hacktoberfest, and perhaps contributing to the Vonage SDKs and our pull requests and issues that we are needing and support in that regard. There'll be lots of ways to participate in our world, but stay tuned. We're hoping to get a lot of streaming content out for all of you during Hacktoberfest also. Dare I say, maybe every single day, TBD. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. And any other departing words that you'd like to share with us, Chris?
I think the biggest thing is have fun.
Yes.
Like I said, find something you're passionate about. Get involved with the community. You'll make some good friends out of it. Like I said, I wouldn't be where I am today without the people I've met doing open source work, both job-wise and with the circle of friends that I have. So I owe a lot to open source. Open source, I think, it's the default way software wants to be anyway. We want to be able to help people.
Absolutely.
And getting involved is the best thing you can do, no matter how big or how small that involvement is with open source.
And with that, I will see you all next week. Thank you, Chris, for joining for Lauren Learns Things. Do not forget, if you all haven't signed up for a Vonage account, let me send you that link right now. You can use that link right below and get involved and start playing with our APIs and our SDKs and all of it. So I will talk to you all soon. Chris, thank you so much again for joining me, and I will talk to you all very, very soon.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
So long. And we are offline and taking us off of the stream.